The glitz and glamour of Hollywood has always served as a dazzling facade, a carefully constructed illusion designed to mask the profound tragedies and dark undercurrents that frequently simmer just beneath the surface of the entertainment industry. For decades, the red carpet has stood as the ultimate symbol of this superficial brilliance, a place where flashing cameras, designer attires, and practiced smiles converge to celebrate creativity, wealth, and success. It is an arena where the public gathers to marvel at their favorite icons, completely insulated from the private agonies that these public figures might be enduring once the spotlights fade and the crowds disperse. Yet, every so often, an event occurs that shatters this boundary, forcing a stark and uncomfortable juxtaposition between the manufactured joy of a Hollywood premiere and a devastating real-world trauma that captivated the headlines of the entire nation. This exact collision of worlds unfolded recently in the heart of Los Angeles at the historic Hollywood Legion Theater, a venue known for hosting intimate and prestigious gatherings of the industry's elite. The occasion was the highly anticipated premiere of a new television project titled Life, Larry, and the Pursuit of Unhappiness, a production spearheaded by the iconic television creator and writer Larry David. As the arrival line swelled with notable figures, journalists, and photographers, the atmosphere carried the usual electric hum of anticipation that accompanies any major entertainment launch in Southern California. But amidst the sea of familiar faces and industry veterans, the arrival of one specific young man instantly shifted the underlying gravity of the evening, drawing the collective gaze of those who understood the immense weight of the steps he was taking. Walking onto the red carpet for the first time in exactly 6 months was 35-year-old Jake Reiner, a man whose very name carries a profound legacy in American cinema, but who has recently become the tragic face of an unfathomable familial nightmare. Dressed in a dignified black suit paired with a classic gray sweater and black shoes, Jake maintained a composed and courageous demeanor as he stepped into the blinding flashbulbs. Marking his very first public appearance since an unspeakable act of violence fundamentally tore his world apart. To look at him in that moment was to witness the sheer resilience of the human spirit, a deliberate effort to reclaim some semblance of normalcy and honor a professional commitment in the wake of a catastrophe that would have entirely broken a lesser individual. Before we dive deeper into the dark and complex layers of this unfolding tragedy, we ask that you take a brief moment to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and join our community as we continue to bring you comprehensive coverage, detailed deep dives, and thoughtful analysis of the most compelling and nuanced stories from around the globe. The story that brought Jake Reiner to that Los Angeles theater on a Tuesday evening is one that began half a year prior, on a cold winter night that will forever be etched into the darker annals of true crime and Hollywood history. To fully comprehend the sheer weight of Jake's public appearance, one must look back to December 14th, 2025, a date that marked the abrupt and violent end to one of the most stable and respected partnerships in the entertainment industry. It was on that evening that the peaceful, affluent neighborhood of Brentwood, California, a sanctuary typically associated with privacy, security, and immense wealth, became the scene of a horrifying double homicide. The victims were none other than the legendary film director Rob Reiner and his beloved wife of 36 years, Michele. The news of their sudden passing sent shockwaves through the global cinematic community, leaving millions of fans and colleagues in a state of absolute disbelief, wondering how such a celebrated and peaceful couple could meet such a brutal end inside their own home. For Jake Reiner, the discovery of this nightmare did not happen through a calculated sequence of official notifications, but rather through a chaotic and deeply traumatizing series of frantic phone calls that shattered a moment of personal reflection. On that fateful night, Jake was attending a solemn event of his own, a celebration of life ceremony for a close confidante who had passed away months earlier, meaning his mind was already anchored in a space of mourning and remembrance. In the middle of this gathering, his phone rang, revealing his sister Romy on the line, who delivered the initial shattering blow that their father, the man responsible for some of the most enduring films in modern history, was dead. Before the young man could even begin to process the staggering gravity of that information, a second call from his sister came through just minutes later, carrying an even more surreal and horrific update that their mother, Michele, had also been killed. The sheer immediacy of losing both parents in a single, violent instant is a psychological trauma that defies conventional description, plunging Jake into a profound state of shock that he would later describe as an unendurable trance. The subsequent 45-minute rideshare journey from downtown Los Angeles to the west side of the city transformed into a waking nightmare, an agonizing stretch of time where the passage of minutes felt entirely distorted. As the city lights blurred outside his window, Jake found his mind completely unmoored, unable to grasp the logistical details or the terrifying reality of what had transpired, his consciousness narrowing down to a singular, desperate necessity. He knew only that he needed to reach his childhood home, to physically stand in the space that had once represented absolute safety, and to hold his sister Romy tightly as they faced a terrifying vacuum of information together. In the immediate aftermath of that devastating evening, the true horror of the situation escalated further as the police investigation quickly pointed toward an insider threat, culminating in the shocking arrest of Jake's younger brother, 32-year-old Nick Reiner. The realization that their own flesh and blood was being charged with the double murder of their parents added a layer of biblical tragedy to an already agonizing situation, dividing the surviving siblings and setting off a complex legal battle. While Nick has since entered a formal plea of not guilty to the severe charges leveled against him, the emotional and psychological fallout has left Jake navigating a deeply altered reality, one where the absence of his parents looms over every single future milestone. The profound sense of theft is something that Jake has openly articulated, noting with immense heartbreak and a simmering, justified rage that his parents will never be present to witness his future wedding, will never hold the grandchildren he might one day bring into the world, and will never see him achieve the professional heights he is still actively pursuing. This sense of a living nightmare is what made his presence on the Larry David red carpet so profoundly symbolic. It was a public declaration that despite being robbed of his foundational support system, he would still show up, still support the creative community his father cherished, and still attempt to move forward. The project itself, which is set to debut on major streaming networks, even features a brief appearance by Jake in the very first episode, a bittersweet testament to his ongoing journey through a landscape of grief that few can truly comprehend. The shockwaves that reverberated through the quiet streets of Brentwood in mid-December were only the beginning of a complex, dark narrative that has continued to unfold behind closed courtroom doors and within the strictly guarded confines of the Los Angeles County legal system. As the initial horror of the physical crime scene faded from the public eye, a more insidious and agonizing battle began to take shape, pitting brother against brother and tearing at the remaining fibers of a legendary Hollywood family. The arrest of 32-year-old Nick Reiner on charges of murdering his own parents, Rob and Michele Reiner, transformed a tragic true crime event into a high-stakes legal drama marked by financial desperation, sudden shifts in legal strategy, and a complete breakdown of familial solidarity. For months, the public has been left to wonder what could have possibly driven a young man from a background of immense privilege, creative lineage, and deep resources to allegedly commit the ultimate act of patricide and matricide. Yet, as the case crawls slowly toward a crucial pretrial hearing scheduled for this coming September, the focus has shifted dramatically from the night of the crime to the bitter struggle over the vast wealth left behind by the deceased couple. This secondary conflict erupted into the public record with striking intensity when Nick Reiner, speaking through a new set of civil attorneys, filed a dramatic petition in a Los Angeles County court on June 9th. The legal filing exposed a deep rift within the family, revealing that while Nick sits in a jail cell awaiting a trial where his very life could hang in the balance, a quiet financial war is being waged over a trust fund established for him decades ago. According to the documents submitted to the court, Nick is actively seeking the immediate release of unpaid monies from a specialized trust that his parents created for him all the way back in 1993. The petition argues with immense urgency that the trustees currently overseeing these specific funds have flatly denied Nick access to his inheritance without any legitimate legal justification, leaving him financially paralyzed at the exact moment he requires maximum resources to fund his criminal defense. The language contained within the court filing is both defiant and calculating, stating explicitly that Nick loved his parents and remains utterly devastated by their violent deaths, while simultaneously arguing that the facts of the murder case should have no bearing on this distinct trust litigation. His civil representatives emphasize a foundational tenet of the American justice system, declaring that like anyone accused of a severe crime, Nick is legally presumed innocent and is therefore fully entitled to mount a robust defense using the assets and resources that are lawfully his own. This legal maneuvering highlights the immense financial strain that a top-tier criminal defense demands, a reality that became painfully apparent when one of the most high-profile private defense attorneys in California, Alan Jackson, abruptly exited the case. Jackson, known for representing celebrity clients in complex, high-stakes trials, had initially been retained to lead Nick's defense team, a move that signaled an aggressive and well-funded strategy to challenge the prosecution's upcoming narrative. However, less than a month after taking the case, Jackson surprised observers by walking away from the representation, citing reasons that he legally and ethically could not share with the public or the media outside the courthouse. The recent June court filing finally pulled back the curtain on this mysterious departure, offering a rare and startling glimpse into the shifting loyalties and deep emotional fractures existing between the surviving Reiner siblings. The documents reveal that in the immediate, chaotic aftermath of the murders, Jake Reiner and his sister Romy had initially stepped forward to support their younger brother, agreeing to personally finance the retaining of Alan Jackson's elite law firm. This short-lived alliance suggests a period of profound confusion and perhaps a desperate hope within the family that the allegations against Nick were a horrific mistake or an easily disproven theory. But as the weeks progressed and the reality of the prosecution's evidence began to crystallize, the siblings made the monumental and devastating decision to reverse course entirely, cutting off the financial pipeline to Nick's legal team. This sudden withdrawal of support left Nick stranded without the capital required to maintain premium private counsel, forcing a temporary halt to his aggressive defense strategy and prompting the current, desperate litigation over his childhood trust. In a signed declaration included with the new petition, Alan Jackson made his firm's position remarkably clear, stating that they stand entirely ready, willing, and able to resume their representation of Nick Reiner the very moment the disputed funds are legally unlocked and made available. The filing takes great care to distinguish between the larger, overarching Reiner family estate, which remains untouched and out of reach, and the smaller individual trusts that Rob and Michele explicitly established for each of their children. The 1993 trust document apparently contained what Nick's lawyers describe as completely unambiguous, mandatory instructions regarding how and when the money was to be distributed as he aged. According to these historical stipulations, Nick was legally entitled to receive exactly half of the trust's total accumulated assets when he reached his 30th birthday, with the remaining half scheduled to be delivered directly to him upon turning 35. However, the petition alleges a systemic and deliberate effort to withhold these funds, pointing out that Nick never received the initial payout he was owed at age 30, long before the tragic events of last December ever took place. The focus of Nick's legal ire is directed squarely at attorney Paul R. Kanin, the trustee, who has been managing and overseeing the specific funds since February, and who stands accused of fabricating a shifting series of excuses to deny the mandatory payouts. The defense claims that Kanin has raised vague and irrelevant concerns regarding Nick's mental competence and overall stability, arguments that the petition insists have absolutely no legal bearing on a distribution that is dictated by strict, mandatory calendar milestones. With his freedom and potentially his life on the line, Nick is now demanding not only the delayed 30-year milestone money, but also the immediate acceleration of his 35-year payout, arguing that his current incarceration and the absolute necessity of a top-tier defense constitute an immediate crisis. While the petition asserts that this specific trust contains at least $1.5 million in highly liquid assets, it notes with frustration that the trustee has continuously refused to disclose the exact current valuation of the fund, further clouding the financial picture. Meanwhile, as this secondary battle over inheritance rages in civil court, the primary criminal proceedings against Nick Reiner are moving forward at an incredibly slow, methodical pace. The young man is currently scheduled to return to a Los Angeles courtroom this coming September for a pivotal pretrial hearing that will likely set the tone for the entire upcoming trial. The stakes could not possibly be higher for the 32-year-old defendant, as the underlying charges make him fully eligible for the death penalty under California law, though the district attorney's office has remained intensely guarded about their ultimate intentions. Newly elected District Attorney Nathan Hochman has publicly stated that his office is continuing to review the totality of the evidence and has not yet made a definitive, final decision on whether they will officially seek capital punishment. This deliberate pacing by the prosecution has created an atmosphere of extreme tension and uncertainty, leaving both the public and the remaining members of the Reiner family in a painful state of limbo. Adding to the immense mystery surrounding the case is the near-total absence of public information, a rare phenomenon in a high-profile celebrity murder investigation occurring in the heart of media-saturated Los Angeles. From the very beginning, law enforcement authorities have maintained an absolute wall of silence regarding any potential motives, refusing to speculate on what could lead to such a horrific act of violence within the Brentwood estate. Leaks from both the prosecution and the defense teams have been virtually non-existent, a testament to the strict judicial management and the sensitive nature of the ongoing investigation. Furthermore, a strict court order has kept the vast majority of the detailed autopsy reports entirely secret, preventing the public from learning the precise nature of the physical confrontation that claimed the lives of Rob and Michele. This lack of transparency means that many of the most basic, fundamental questions regarding how the killings carried out and what evidence directly links Nick to the weapon remain entirely unanswered in the public square. Yet, despite the wall of silence, flashes of absolute defiance still emerge from the defense camp, perhaps most notably on the very day Alan Jackson was forced to step away from the case. Speaking with immense gravity to a crowd of reporters outside the courthouse, Jackson paused on the steps to deliver a fierce, unwavering declaration to the cameras, reminding the public that pursuant to the explicit laws of the state of California, Nick Reiner is innocent until proven guilty, and flatly stating that his client did not commit these murders. That powerful statement continues to hang heavily over the entire proceeding, serving as a stark reminder that a fierce battle over the truth lies ahead, even as the family's private pain is laid bare for the world to see. To truly understand the monumental tragedy that has shattered the Reiner family, one must look beyond the sterile walls of the courtroom and the sensationalized true crime headlines, and instead look back at the incredible cultural legacy that this partnership built over nearly 4 decades. Rob Reiner was not merely a Hollywood director. He was a master storyteller whose cinematic visions quite literally shaped the emotional landscape of multiple generations throughout the 1980s and 1990s. His extraordinary filmography represents an era of filmmaking where heart, wit, and deeply human narratives took precedence over computer-generated spectacle, leaving behind a body of work that remains endlessly watchable and universally beloved. From the brilliant foundational mockumentary satire of This Is Spinal Tap, which revolutionized the comedy genre, to the profound, nostalgic exploration of childhood friendship and loss in Stand By Me, Rob possessed a rare ability to capture the exact essence of the human experience. He seamlessly transitioned between vastly different genres, delivering the razor-sharp legal tension and unforgettable courtroom confrontations of A Few Good Men, while also helming what many critics consider to be the definitive romantic comedy of the modern era, When Harry Met Sally. It was during the frantic, creative production of that iconic romantic film that Rob's professional life converged beautifully with his personal destiny, leading to his introduction to a talented photographer named Michele Singer, who was working on the project. The connection between the brilliant director and the perceptive photographer was instantaneous and deeply profound, leading to a swift marriage that would endure as one of Hollywood's rarest treasures, a stable, loving, and fiercely supportive 36-year partnership. Together, Rob and Michele built a life centered around artistic expression, community activism, and a fierce devotion to their 3 children, Jake, Nick, and Romy, establishing a home in Brentwood that was meant to be a permanent sanctuary of safety and love. They were widely viewed as pillars of the community, individuals who used their immense influence and resources to uplift others, making the sudden, brutal nature of their deaths inside that very sanctuary all the more impossible for the public to reconcile. For the surviving siblings, Jake and Romy, the journey ahead is an uncharted wilderness of public grief and private torment, a process of trying to honor their parents' massive cultural legacy while simultaneously enduring the agonizing reality of a broken home. Jake's recent decision to step out onto the red carpet for the Larry David premiere was a monumental milestone in this ongoing struggle, a deliberate and painful effort to reconnect with the creative community that his parents loved so dearly. By choosing to appear in public, dressed in a dignified manner and putting on a brave face for the cameras, Jake demonstrated a profound level of resilience, showing the world that the horrific actions of one night would not completely erase the beauty of what his parents had built. His involvement in the television project, which marks a bittersweet continuation of his own creative aspirations, serves as a poignant reminder that life, no matter how fractured, must somehow find a way to move forward in the wake of an absolute catastrophe. Yet, as Jake and Romy attempt to reconstruct their lives and find a path toward healing, the shadow of the upcoming September criminal trial continues to loom heavily over every single day, promising a fresh wave of public scrutiny and emotional upheaval. The impending legal proceedings will inevitably force the family to confront the horrific details of that December night, as the prosecution finally lays out its evidence and the true nature of the allegations against Nick is fully revealed. The fact that Nick remains in a jail cell, cut off from his siblings, and fighting a desperate civil battle over his childhood trust fund adds a layer of absolute tragedy to the narrative, ensuring that there are no easy answers or comforting resolutions on the horizon. The Reiner family, once celebrated as royalty within the entertainment capital of the world, has now become a sobering symbol of how quickly a legacy of love, art, and success can be impacted by sudden, inexplicable violence. As the global cinematic community continues to mourn the profound loss of Rob and Michele Reiner, the focus remains firmly fixed on the surviving children, whose lives have been permanently altered by an event that defies comprehension. The story of the Reiner family is no longer just a chronicle of Hollywood triumph, but a deeply moving, ongoing testament to the fragility of human life, the devastating complexities of familial bonds, and the enduring strength required to face a living nightmare. No matter what truths are ultimately uncovered within the courtroom this fall, the memory of Rob and Michele's vibrant lives, their enduring love story, and the timeless films they left behind will continue to shine bright.